Trent, but you can call me Wall.
And I'm Todd DeFranzo, and you can call me T.
Welcome to I Paranormal, where we keep an eye
on the paranormal.
Today's is the second part of our Eye on EVPs. So, T, let's talk about the EVP sources.
Well, Wall, there's a lot of potential sources of EVPs. One of the most common sources of EVPs is psychokinesis.
Okay, so you're talking about the actual person imprinting the device, the recording device.
Yeah, it's somehow that their mind has this power where it's manipulating the energy in the environment, and they ask the question and their mind wants the answer to be, say, Frank, and suddenly there's Frank on the recorder.
Okay. What's another one?
Okay, another one is called auditory pareidolia. Now, this is sort of a matrixing. It's kind of similar to where maybe you see some dots and you're able to make faces out of them. Well, think of it in the auditory sense.
Okay.
The brain is interpreting random patterns, making you hear something that's not really there.
So a researcher out there could actually just want to hear something on the recorder and think that was his name being called.
Well, that's the idea. Now, another one is that there's interference coming from different types of broadcasts, such as AM, FM, maybe it's, the
walkie-talkies,
radio, walkie-talkies, CBs, or maybe it's somebody else doing the same thing we're doing and somehow they're picking it up.
Okay. So it can be outside devices going onto the recorder.
Right, but that kind of source has been kind of ruled out because they've done a lot of controlled scientific experiments in RF screened rooms. Now, another one is that voices could already be on the tape.
A hoax.
That's what you're saying. Or maybe, you taped something, you say, you know what, I need space, and you went back and you taped it again, and somehow, an amazing, turn of coincidence, you asked a question, and bam, there was your answer, and it was relevant.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people today are using the digital recorders instead of the tape, so you don't...
Right, that's probably more of a problem in the past, but even so, it seems very unlikely that that would happen again. Now, another kind of crazy one is it's coming from another dimension or even aliens.
Okay, so you're talking about, I love this one. It's a little bit sci-fi, I like the whole science fiction thing. So you're thinking the dimensions could be crossing, right?
Yeah, they could be.
And at the time and moment of where you are, that place that you're doing the EVPs,
sure,
right? And they're trying to communicate with us.
It's possible, or maybe there's aliens out there watching us right now. Now, you've seen the guys with the tinfoil on their head, right? They'll agree with this theory. But let's talk about the one that a lot of people really believe or really wanted to believe.
They're hoping for this one right here. I think that a lot of people want this one is the communicating with the dead.
That's right. They're hoping that these EVP sources are actually people who have lived before and are dead.
Yeah, loved ones, friends, friends, wives.
Or anybody in which you're doing the investigation. Let's say you went into Al Capone's jail cell where he died or something, and you're going to kind of hope that the EVP voice you're getting is coming from who other than Al Capone. Yeah, you're supposed to say the name, but
Al Capone.
Okay, I got you on that one, Wall.
But, I think all the TV shows cover this, and I think a lot of people believe in that one. Now,
well, at least I hope it's true, because, it gives us a little, validation or maybe a little bit of hope that after this, there's something more.
Right. Well, this is connected to that, is the theories. We're going to talk about the theories now.
Now, theories are kind of a murky place to be, okay? Now,
there's quite a bit of them.
There is. In fact, anybody you ask on the street, any of your friends, they probably have some sort of version or a different type of, an EVP theory. But two of the most common ones that I think a lot of people believe is that somehow the spirits are manipulating the energy in the environment, and the sound recorder, or the voice recorder, is picking up that energy in the form of sound waves, turn it into an electrical signal, which is recorded and then put on, onto the tape, imprinted onto the tape.
Okay.
That's a possibility, right?
Right, that's a possibility, but it goes back to me of some of the people in history that we talked about. They actually took the devices off, their recorders, but the voices were still captured on their devices.
That's right. And you're referring to Mario Bacci, the Italian guy.
Right.
Now, this guy, remember in our last episode, he was talking about using a valve radio, and he did that with the controlled experiments. And what was amazing is when he pulled off those valves, and that radio was no longer working as a radio, but even more so is when he turned it off, he was picking up voices. Well, this is kind of similar, except the difference here, and we didn't even talk about what this theory was that the spirits are actually imprinting that their energy or the responses onto the magnetic tape directly.
Right.
And that would go along the lines. And a good way to rule this out would be to get a device where you don't have a microphone or remove the microphone, disable the recording mechanism, do your EVP sessions, go back and see if you're able to pick up voices on that tape.
It would be amazing if you did. You know, that's awesome.
And there's another point I want to bring up. With spirits manipulating energy or EMF in the environment, and this is where maybe a millimeter might come in handy, because it's been known with EVPs that sometimes you'll get the spikes on the millimeter.
Yeah.
It might give you a good reference point that maybe that EMF is being manipulated by the spirit. Check your tape at that time just to see.
And during our investigations, that has happened.
It has happened before, but still, it's also happened where we've gotten EVPs without any sort of millimeter response.
Yeah. So let's talk about equipment next.
Okay, well, Wally, being the leader of the Las Vegas Paranormal Authority, I think anybody knows anything about doing an investigation with EVPs and what equipment to use would be you.
Yeah, we talked about this too. The number one thing on any investigation that the evidence, the one we're going to always get is EVPs, is our recorders. So like this one right here is one of my favorites right here. This is the Zoom H2 recorder. A lot of professionals use this one right here. Reason one is because it doesn't create that white noise. Now, like this Sony right here is the Sony IC recorder. This one tends to create its own white noise.
Which is actually a good thing. In
Yes.
fact, I would bring both of them to the investigation. The reason being, it's thought because we're transferring or converting analog to digital, that somehow the software in these digital recorders is erroring and causing to pick up noises or create noises that people are interpreting as being EVPs. But with the white noise, they found that doesn't happen. So it might validate your EVP session a little bit more.
And we found that capturing EVPs either on a very expensive recorder, just like this one, or a little bit cheaper, $35, $40, you still get EVPs, right? So it's, if you have the ability, buy this one right here, but also carry these little small ones. These are real nice.
Now there's another category, I think, for recording EVPs, and this one probably is the top of the pyramid. This is called ITC, or Instrumental Transcommunication. Now what that is just like we have our voice recorders, that falls under that, or anything that's electronic that allows us to communicate with the other side, such as the TV, maybe even the CB radio.
Yep.
Or
radios, just regular radios. Turn it on to a station where there's just white noise. There's nobody talking.
The obelisk, of course, the voice recorders, anything like that, any kind of electronic device that allows us to communicate with the other side. Now, I think one of the most famous ones, and you probably know this, is Frank's box. That's probably where the ITC kind of started. Tell us a little about that.
Well, that was very famous. When I first heard of it was in the early 90s. So it's been around here for a while, but it's probably been longer.
Right.
The Frank's box is basically you would ask a question and the actual box would actually respond back.
It's like the spirit boxes we use today,
yeah,
right? It scans through different frequencies, doing sweeps.
So Frank's box has a lot of people have used this, and they got a lot of responses, really good ones. They even heard their own relatives on there, voices they recognize. So it's very popular out there.
And it's more known today as the spirit box.
Right.
All right, Wally, last time in our last episode, we brought up a classification system that we use. Now, there's many systems out there.
Yes.
But let's go with the basic one.
The basic one is Class A, Class B, Class C. Now, Class A is the easiest to understand. It's you heard the same thing I did.
That's right.
You heard yes, I heard yes. You heard no.
I heard Carl's in the closet. You heard Carl's in the
Carl's
closet.
in the closet.
There was no discussion.
No discussion whatsoever.
What about Class B?
Class B, it's a little difficult. We know we hear something. I might hear something, and you might hear something totally different.
I hear Carl's in the closet. You hear...
He's taking off his dress. Carl, we love you.
What about Class C?
Class C is the hardest of all. You definitely have a sound, not of anybody in your group or anybody walking around or talking, but you hear something that is definitely there.
Okay, and maybe it's something that's out of the ordinary, but something I probably wouldn't use in my investigation.
But I would.
I wouldn't expect you not to. All right,
I'm the believer.